Why is Alexander Technique so highly recommended for singers? This is Open Mind Alexander Technique. My name is Jess. I'm a certified teacher of Alexander Technique teaching at a university music school. This is the University of Denver's Lamont School of Music, and I work with a lot of singers. Today I wanted to take a little detour from just talking about singer-specific issues or challenges or suggestions, which is what I've been doing as part of this long series I've been making, going through all these different instrument types and talking about how Alexander Technique applies to them. Today I want to talk a little bit about how come singing is the place where you will hear some of the most powerful advocacy for how helpful Alexander Technique is for the people that do it. So, this lovely little program here is from Opera Colorado. I went to see their show recently. I had several students who were in this production. And there was a marvelous quote in this program book that I want to show you. So this was Donizetti's Daughter of the Regiment. It's an incredibly difficult opera vocally. This is from the bel canto era. That means beautiful song or pretty song. And it was all about how amazingly gorgeous and difficult and just vocal fireworks that they could make. This is very flashy, really hard stuff. Crazy high, really fast runs, a lot of words, very hard to sing. So their lead woman role, who played Marie, the daughter of the regiment, was a coloratura soprano named Katrina Galka. She was absolutely spectacular. Definitely look her up. She did a little question and answer interview as part of the program book for the opera. And I want to read a bit. So the question is, you've posted a few Instagram videos of you practicing barefoot. How much does your shoe choice and body awareness affect your singing? So she starts out by joking a little bit about Instagram. I have not looked at her Instagram because I don't have an Instagram account, and you have to have an account in order to watch the videos, so I haven't seen it. But after she jokes a little bit about Instagram, she says, "You do raise a great point, because body awareness is everything for us as singers. And there's a lot of research that supports that being barefoot is excellent for establishing more functional body patterns. I myself have had various struggles related to hypermobility. Me too. And because of that, I do like wearing a shoe with an exceptionally wide toe box and a flexible sole, a la the barefoot shoe trend. I have a favorite pair of sneakers by Barbarics. I'm not sure how to say that. It might be Barbarics. And I plan to buy more barefoot-style shoes because my whole body is happier for it. Singing is such a personal act. Every body is different, and the demands of singing will affect each body uniquely, so building your own body awareness is absolutely essential. On an average day, I can easily spend just as much time doing physical body work to support my body for singing as I do actually singing." And she was great. It was a very physical role. It was not a park and bark opera. They didn't just stand there and sing. She was jumping up and down off of picnic benches and tables, and she was throwing things while doing crazy coloratura soprano stuff. There was one time in particular where she squatted down to the ground and had her head rotated just enough that the sound would still project to the audience. And she squatted down to the ground and picked something up and threw it, all while singing. And she didn't lose support, she didn't lose pitch, it was flawless. And I was so excited. It's such a great example of how working on the body as the instrument is vital, really for all musicians, but especially for singers, where there is no other piece of equipment that you can take to the shop. As a flute player, I took my flute to the mechanic when there was something wrong with it. Well, you're the voice mechanic when you're the singer, effectively. Your use of yourself is the whole thing. So when I'm teaching here to both undergrad and graduate students, I find that my singers tend to have some of the strongest realizations and, oh my gosh, I can do that differently, light bulb moments of all of my students. So I have so much fun working with them because they're the ones who really tend to get so excited and, that feels so different because you are the instrument. So I will be doing a few videos on Alexander Technique and voice. I wanted to do a bit of an introduction first to get people thinking about why is it that we hear about body awareness for voice so much more than we hear about body awareness for other instruments. Frankly, I think that's a shame. There needs to be just as much body awareness for drummers and flute players as there are for coloratura opera sopranos. One of the things that I work on a lot with my singers is everything that's not the voice. They spend so much time working with their voice teachers on the breath support and how everything is moving in here, but they don't know where their legs are. And they don't know that their legs actually connect to their diaphragms. And they don't know about the difference between pulling the shoulders up versus allowing the shoulders to rest, as opposed to pulling the shoulders down, which actually compresses their rib cage. Those are the kind of things that I work on a ton with singers. Another story that I want to tell about just the usefulness of AT for singers comes from about a year ago. I was working with a grad student singer here, happened to be on an aria, also from Daughter of the Regiment, but was not part of the Opera Colorado production. It was just the student production. They didn't do the full opera, they just did a few select arias as part of a kind of sampler performance. And it was semi-staged, so there was no scenery, but they still were moving around the stage, and the lead male man singer, who has a role that was very high. It's a very famous role. Pavarotti did it a bunch of times. It involves a whole bunch of high Cs. For the record, I'm an alto or mezzo. That's my high C. So it's really high, and it's a very difficult aria for him to sing. And he came in one day and said, okay, so I need to sing this. It's very high. The blocking that they've given me is I need to walk around and I'm singing about, my love and how wonderful she is, the girl. And I need to fall over backwards into the arms of the other soldiers. And then I sing there for a second, and then they push me back upright and I walk off. And I have to do that all while singing. Okay. So what we worked on together was, how can you give the audience the appearance of you falling over without you actually falling over? The reason I wanted him to not have to actually fall over is we get a startle response when we're falling. And that's going to mess with air support and being able to keep everything working. So there's a lot of ways that you can kind of cheat a little bit, or at least you can do movements that look to the audience like you're doing something that's a lot more difficult than it really is. And those moments are great, and I love helping people find them. What we did in this particular case was we practiced being able to stand on one foot and keep the whole head, neck, torso to the bottom of the pelvis together and tilt the whole thing while sticking one foot out. Make sure you can see this. So it was this. I'm fully supported here. My voice is fine. I'm not actually even that far backwards, but sticking the one foot out and leaning backward, and again, he would have support from the other guys that were there, the chorus, supporting his back. Throw the arms out, do this and sing, and come back, and you haven't actually fallen over. But when I went to the show, yes, it looked like he had fallen over. Those are the kind of things that, if you think about it from the perspective of someone who is really highly trained in body mechanics and sustainable movement and efficiency, that's exactly what Alexander Technique is. We can find these things. We can help a lot with blocking. Another thing that I noticed in the Opera Colorado performance of Daughter of the Regiment was a student who I have worked with a ton, who actually got into the named cast for this, Mason O'Brien. He got to perform opposite Monet Exchange, who was here. This is the show that Monet Exchange was in. Very famous drag queen, and she was in the show, which was very exciting. She was wonderful, too. So my student Mason was the valet, or like her assistant, basically, in the show. And he had to pick up and move a table as part of the show. And I was sitting there watching this going, yeah, you're gonna get it. Because he did it so well. He kept this whole unit together, sent the knees forward, pelvis backward, and picked it up, and the voice was fine. So I was so proud of him, and it was wonderful to see my students on stage in this, professional company using the things that we work on in here in this room. One more story I want to tell about how helpful this is was a bass singer. Huge voice, but was having a little bit of trouble getting down to a big, sonorous, low note. He's really a bass baritone, so not like full true bass. And he was getting really kind of stiff, and the big low note sounded kind of pressed and held. They were doing a musical theater sampler, so it was interesting. They're all opera students, but now they all of a sudden had to do musical theater, which involved some dancing. So worked on that with a lot of them for that performance as well. So this bass baritone was singing a song from Les Miserables, and it was the one where he goes, you wear a different chain, but like 2 octaves down, and that low note just wasn't as big and resonant as he wanted. So what I worked on with him with that was everything that's not the singing. We did this a lot. And as he continued working with this segment, this passage over and over, he started to loosen up a little bit. The reason I worked with him on this in particular was I noticed that he was getting really tight in his low torso and his hips and his legs. So if we can get the legs to let go, you'll get a lot more availability in your low torso support. So we were doing this. And we kept doing this over and over, walk around again, come back, try it again, thinking about your overall directions, head and neck, knees go forward, pelvis goes back. His low note, he got to the low note, and it was huge, and he felt so good singing it that he held it for like an extra 5 seconds and looked at me and went, it was wonderful. And it was so loud my ears were ringing afterwards. So now I know I need to have earplugs in here because a full bass baritone doing his thing and really getting great availability and freedom and support can cause hearing damage. So that's fun. So the next few videos are going to be about voice-specific challenges and suggestions from my years of teaching singers with Alexander technique. Slight note about the video production here, I got some new equipment, which is great. I know that this microphone is quite different than what I had been using, so I'm sorry if you're going through playlists and this one now is wildly different sound volume, so sorry you have to adjust, but it'll be like this going forward. I hope you look forward to more Alexander technique and voice videos coming up soon.